Certainly interesting times, and a number of people are wondering, okay, so where is this going to go? One of the issues that was mentioned in that report you just listened to by the president is a special crimes court, which is hoping that the National Assembly will expedite action on. Now, what is that all about? There are arguments for and against. Some are of the opinion that, look, we have more than enough. But some are thinking, look, we already have precedents. Why don't we just follow through on the same thing? Well, to take us further on this to help us gain some understanding of what's going on about the special courts, special crimes court being proposed by presidency, is Ms. Muna Segine, who is a legal practitioner. Thanks for joining us.
Nice being here.
As well as Mr. Evans Ufeli. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Let's say ladies first, so let's obey that law. What's your take on this special crimes court issue being talked about?
I personally feel that if I were to be the proponents of this bill, I would not have bothered about it. Why do I say so? I believe we have to do more in making our institutions work. That jettisoning what we have and thinking of new ways out. Establishment of special criminal courts will not solve the problem of corruption. Corruption, bad as it is, needs to be handled tactically by the powers that be. By every Nigerian, the judiciary, the government, including the governed. I think, I may be wrong, this is my personal opinion on this, the creation of special criminal courts will not solve this problem.
When you say already established institutions, which ones are you talking about?
For instance, we have the courts. We have courts that have been established to tackle the issue of corruption. Courts have been established in this country for many, many years.
And then perhaps because the cases don't get out of the courts as
yes,
quickly
that's what people think. But even if you create special courts, they're still going to be manned by judges. Lawyers in this country, legal practitioners who apply our courts, we know the problems with these courts that have been established. We should look at ways at how to do away with these problems that have made these criminal cases, especially the ones that have to do with politically exposed persons. They are the ones that drag longer than other corruption leading cases. What do we do? What is the way out? There are ways out.
If I may butt in briefly, now you mentioned two things. You said first that this perhaps means jettisoning some of the existing institutions. You said that earlier. And then you also said that lawyers actually know the problems, the challenges, and if these challenges have been on for years, decades, and I mean, lawyers know, so perhaps that's a good reason to actually start looking to, special crimes courts.
Like I said a while ago, you may be a supporter of having special courts to tackle corruption cases.
I may not be.
I don't know which side of the divide you fall into. But I'm talking for myself. Muna Segine is of the firm view that creation of special criminal courts will not solve this problem.
Okay.
We already have courts that have been established to handle cases of corruption. Why is it that high rate of success is not being recorded?
We'll come to some of those details in a moment, but let's take Mr. Ofeli's opinion. What's your take?
Well, I think that the creation of special court is a positive ideology in the sense that the court as constituted today have not been able to address effectively and then the issue of corruption.
Why is that?
In Nigeria. The reasons are clear. First, you have a system where the courts are overburdened with cases, okay? And then you go to court, sometimes you find a judge that have to sit over 40 cases in a day, sometimes 35, 25, depending on how busy the court is. And then these are cases that range from different kind of offenses, and then wrongs, either civil, criminal, and all that.
But
land matters
isn't that
convoluted.
Isn't that a creation also of the judiciary, in that the judiciary is unable to tackle these issues and as and when due, and consequently, combat the courts. Some would lay that on the judiciary.
It is not a creation of the judiciary. The judiciary is there to address those cases. But the cases are much, the judges are few. And then when you take up cases like that, and you have to bring them with other cases and all that, just like in the Supreme Court. Now, as I speak to you now, the Supreme Court have no date till 2022. You understand? So if you have corruption cases,
dates. What does that mean?
No dates. That is, if you are before the Supreme Court now, you cannot get a date for your matter to be heard in 2022. You get what I mean? So because of the congestion, you have election petition matters there, you have all kinds of matters there, you have criminal cases there. But when you specialize it, okay, when you have special courts now for corruption cases, then the judges are taking on training on forensic
judges.
You can recruit more judges.
Okay.
We're looking at a way out of a problem. Okay, so we cannot retain the status quo to deal with the problem. Today, people are committing offenses with technology, and we are still using manual system to address it. The law, the courts, the judicial system must be ahead of the criminal or the offender.
Isn't that also, again, I go back to the fact that the judiciary ought to be able to make its own case, until the advent of this Fourth Republic, the Lagos State government, the Lagos State judiciary was like every other judiciary in Nigeria, going manual.
Yes.
But then at some point they decided, you know what, let's up the ante, let's review stuff. So what if, just as Mrs. Segini said, what if there was a way to upscale everything and then, expedite action in all of the cases such that we don't really have to...
Part of the way to upscale the process is by creating special courts. You can't run away from that. All over the world.
Do we have a precedent for it?
Whether we have a precedent for special courts?
Yes. Or
of course.
Anything like that?
Of course. In Lagos State, we have a creation of that. Okay? You specialize, we have different, the courts that handle probate matters are different from the ones that handle general civil and all that. So we already have a semblance of it, and it seems to be working in a way. So what we need to do is, because these politicians and then these people that lead us, they have a way of taking the resources that in the past 10 years, 10 trillion has been budgeted for a constituency project, and there's no reflection of that. Somebody is somewhere committing an offense. So then you cannot bring the person under this same system. So, the case of Joshua Daire and then the former governor of Taraba State took how many years before conviction? Okay, but where you have a special court, and then you have judges in those courts that have been trained on forensic analysis of what, because we have a long way to go.
All right. I think one thing is clear. We want the wheel of justice to grind perhaps faster and more effective. So whichever ideas we come up with, I think that's the major aim. But Mrs. Esegini, I was reading an account from Premium Times, and it was talking about how courtrooms are so small sometimes, referring to Lagos, such that some of the lawyers have to fight for space. In fact, they had to adjourn a case because of the size of the courtroom. Imagine they had over 30 defendants and the courtroom could only sit less than 20 people. So perhaps if we get special courts, a different arena, so to speak, to play the game, maybe this will make the wheel of justice grind faster, don't you think?
Again, I still want to maintain my earlier position. Special courts will still not solve that. Because if you find courts that are small, in Lagos State, for example, a lot of the courts are not as small as you described. You find those in some other smaller states, like Osun State, for instance. An average court in Lagos, a high court, can sit more than 30%. The courts most times, when you have very sensitive cases in Lagos State, naturally we expect people to come. A lot of supporters in court will be in those courts. They will outnumber the number of lawyers who are there to do their normal business. I want to give you an example of the National Industrial Court. It's a court that was created. It has constitutional provision to handle just employment and labor-related issues. Why was it set up by the federal government? To ensure that labor-related matters go on smoothly, seamlessly, within a short period of time, you get judgment. Within a short time, people began to say, oh, no, 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 no. It has to go beyond a court of first instance. It has to labor matters. There are some cases that have to go to court of appeal. That is the position as it is now. If you go to National Industrial Court, which is a special court in code for labor-related matters, employer-employee matters, they are no longer as fast as they used to be. We have several cases in them.
What is responsible for that?
Because these courts are manned by judges. Some essential things that these judges require to perform optimally are lacking.
Such as?
They need to be trained. I still believe they need more training. More judges need to be employed. We still have shortage of judges,
okay,
whether in federal or state courts.
Okay, madam, one of the arguments that a number of people have brought forward is that, look, there are precedents in other sectors of our justice delivery system, generally. In the police, for instance, some have argued that the creation of the EFCC and the creation of the ICPC wouldn't have been necessary if the police system as it was as active as it ought to be. But with the creation of the EFCC, we have seen some expeditious action as far as, investigating corrupt practices and all of that, financial crimes and, of course, ICPC for corrupt practices are concerned. How do you react to that?
Well, this one is different. Those agencies, yes, they are doing a lot. I applaud especially the EFCC. But, the cases of the EFCC have to go to courts again. Those are investigative agencies.
Wouldn't it make it, even more efficient if, for instance, there was a special crimes court for corruption cases and all of that? So EFCC just goes straight there and we'll get quicker justice.
I'm telling you, even if that is done, what I'm looking at is how efficient is it going to be in the long run. It's easy in Nigeria for us to say, oh, this is what is happening. It's working in other clients. Bring it to Nigeria. They will kill it. Nigerians will kill it. It won't work. So I'm of the opinion that we need to recruit more judges for our courts. Let them be trained. In Lagos State, we have judges who are in the criminal division. We have those in the commercial division. Judges who are in the criminal division, let them handle strictly only criminal matters. Let them be trained. We need more hands. The major problem why these cases are so slow is that, like my learned colleague has said, you find that sometimes in a court have about 50 cases. 50, and you expect only a single judge to handle them. He's a human being. Years and tears will come in at the end of the day. I still believe that institutions that we have, let's maintain them, let's put things in place to let them work optimally. Okay. It's not the creation that is the issue. When you create and you don't put the basic mechanisms in place for them to work, you still not achieve the desired result.
So she has mentioned training. She has mentioned, essentially looking into the institution and saying, why wasn't it working in the first place? So don't you agree that maybe that should be the first step? Let us look inwards. We need to go all computer-based, ditch the files and all that, perhaps build new structures, go for training. So maybe shouldn't we look into that first so that we don't make the same mistakes? Because if you change the arena, but you have the same team working there, they'll just replicate what was working before. So don't you think we should look into that first?
Well, I talked about training earlier on as regards this, because we know that the population is huge. And then if you look at the number of courts we have and the level of wrong in society, this is not a Scandinavian society where you have zero crime rates in places like Iceland and Netherlands. This is Nigeria where, corruption is endemic. And then because corruption is endemic, because one of the mood of regulating society through law is when a particular offense becomes notorious, such that it is about to wear out the security agencies. You need to do something about it, either to bring what we call, make it a capital offense with a capital punishment, or to look at the court structure and redesign it, okay? As we speak, most of our courts are already specialized. Section 251 of the 1999 Constitution is amended, okay, where the National Industrial Court, like she said, was created from have already, designed that for employment. And if you see the level of success up until it was disbanded in a way, not disbanded, it was formerly the cases in the National Industrial Code only end in the National Industrial Code, but now you have to go on appeal. But before that part, we had a very successful system and people got justice, employment-related cases.
But pardon me, this might also set another precedent. So we're saying because corruption cases are a big deal, then we need to have specialized courses. Don't forget there are electoral offenses also.
Yes.
Big deal. Do we need to have specialized courts for that? There's also the armed robbery and all that. Do we need to have special courts? I recently heard, I think, about illegal minors courts. That is in the works, perhaps. So maybe eventually we'll just need to have specialized courts for major crimes. Do you think that might also...
No, not necessarily. You see, when they say special courts for corruption cases, the other offenses you listed are the one you talked about. I mean, you mentioned some other issues now.
Electoral offenses.
Electoral offenses will fall under corruption because it's corruption. Yes, it will fall under corruption.
Do you think that's the plan? Do you think that's what this is about?
If that is not the plan, you can always expand the jurisdiction of a court.
Armed robbery is corruption also,
You understand what I'm saying? That is crime, okay? Corruption itself is crime. But if you look at it, it is not armed robbery that have taken Nigeria this down and low. When you identify a nation's primary problem, just like the Chinese did, when they identified it, you need to now make sure that you have a strong legal system, a strong penal system that will deal with the monster. Okay. That's exactly what the president wants to do. But if we begin to trivialize it by stretching it, that armed robbery will fall in, this will fall in, we're not going to move anywhere. We're not going to do anything.
What is the legality, Mr. Ofeli, of having a special crimes court now?
Section 515 or 15.5 of the 1999 Constitution says that the government shall abolish all forms of corruption and abuse of power. That's the legality.
Well, one of the things that
Constitution
many people
has
have
already
also argued, as you very well know, is that we have all kinds of courts that are empowered already to do that. Why don't we just create, structures in which way that will say, okay, you know what, you this court face this, you this court face this, rather than create a special crimes court?
That is exactly what we're talking about. That you have courts specialized already. I mean, this creating special court, we have courts specialized already.
So they are already specialized. Why create a special crimes court?
They are talking about creating special court because as the courts are presently constituted, they have not been able to address that. I think the president is referring to political corruption.
Okay, now, if talking about political corruption, how friendly or how quickly do you see the National Assembly attending to this matter? Because the president is asking the National Assembly to expedite action.
Yeah, it was an executive bill that was sent to them in 2016.
It is a bill.
Yes, a bill.
And over the years, this is where we are, and the president is still asking for them to do that.
Yeah, because the president cannot...
As you very well know, before the industrial court could become a superior court on its own, the Constitution had to be amended. And you, of course, understand the process of having to amend the Constitution in order to be able to have the special crimes court. Otherwise, it's an inferior court.
Of course.
So,
you see, the amendment process of the Constitution is ongoing as we speak. Okay? So if you have that bill, if the bill becomes an act, it becomes an act of the National Assembly, for which the National Assembly have competence to make law.
So how friendly do you see the National Assembly members being to expediting action on this bill?
This ninth Assembly...
Seeing, as you said, that it's to tackle political corruption.
This ninth Assembly will do what it ought to do by law. Even though the president cannot twist them or force them to push it, they must do it. Because if we don't do it, we are prolonging the evil day. We must do something about this thing. The reason we are like this is because of corruption. Okay. If we don't address it, we're in trouble.
Mrs. Exegina is smiling, and I think she wants to...
Yes, I'm smiling at what my colleague has just said. This bill has been pending in the National Assembly. I'm not trying to sound like a prophet of doom. It will remain pending in the next 1 year or so to come. Why is it so? We know the caliber of distinguished senators and members of the House of Representative members we have in the National Assembly. A lot of them have one case or case of corruption against them, their wives, children, or somebody very close to them. I have told them to pass a bill that will fast track the delay of corruption cases in Nigeria. Now, tell me something different.
But you have heard that the legislature has said several times that they're going to work hand in hand with the executive such that bills such as this will be expedited. Don't you think that's something to hold on to?
Well, it's obvious from what we just heard the president say last week that the president is actually crying out for help. If they want to make good their promise, they ought to have ensured that this bill has been passed into law. Why is it taking time?
You know, another side of this conversation is practice, and that's where we come to lawyers. And some people will say that the system is perhaps this way because a lot of lawyers have exploited some of the loopholes. You get frivolous adjournments just to try to drag the case. And I know this is perhaps not comfortable, you know, for you because you are lawyers, but then we need to talk about this. The role of lawyers in the legal system of this country. Don't you think lawyers should also take responsibility for, you know, where we are right now?
Well, of course, there's no doubt about that. I will have, of course, to tell one or two persons that the major problems we have in this country are problems caused by either lawyers or the bankers. When these monies are stolen, ill-gotten monies, when monies are being laundered, who handle them? The bankers, using our banking system. And when you are charged to call, who do you first call? You don't go to a doctor, you call a lawyer. That's why I said the reason why this system is not working has to be traced or even placed almost squarely at the footstep or doorstep of lawyers and judges. We are part of the same problem. Creating special courts will not solve the problem.
So essentially,
until
you're saying...
essentially we deal with ourselves. A judge is first and foremost a lawyer. We have to deal with ourselves. How come we are like this? Has it ever occurred to you? Have you ever asked, why is that a bill that will work? Elsewhere will not work in Nigeria.
So essentially, you are laying the blame. You are asking us then to have a completely a holistic judicial reform.
Exactly.
That will involve all stakeholders.
All the stakeholders have to be involved. All the stakeholders have to be involved.
What are the elements?
Adjunction, you talked about frivolous applications, adjournments being granted. Yes, they will come. Because an average lawyer is in Nigeria, he's hungry, wants food on his table. So when a corrupt politician brings a matter before him, he knows that there is no merit in this case. He will begin to tell you, why not we go this way? There is no law that is perfect. Even laws abroad, there are always loopholes to be exploited by those who are guilty. As far back as the 17th century, somebody ran and said, let's kill all the lawyers. So corruption didn't start today. It did not start with the Nigerian judiciary or with Nigerian lawyers. It has always been there. But it shows that other systems, because of the rate of development, they will look at one way or the other to ensure that it's brought down to the barest minimum. So what do we do? If I were a judge and the lawyer brings a frivolous application to me, for instance, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act has prohibited those things. You don't bring frivolous applications because they, more often than not, they are brought to stall the progress of this matter. But then that brings us to the issue of some judges who have interest in some of these cases.
Okay, let's then go to Mr. Ofili now, so because it's our final moments now. Already we have all these laws. So a special crimes court doesn't mean a new set of laws. Are we going to now have new laws because we have a new a special crimes court?
No, the laws we have will apply. We have a lot of laws that have addressed the issues of crime and criminality.
Well, you know also, just a quick one, that with the creation of every new agency comes special funding. Yes. And in these days when government is asking that, you know, we should cut down on expenditure, how do we go about it? You're still asking us to spend more money.
Of course, there's no way a nation will not spend money. You will spend money to tackle the monster. That if you don't spend that money, you are still going to end up spending the money. So you have to devise a way to make sure that you address the issues militating against the progress of the nation. I think what the president is trying to say is that we need to deal with corruption. The issue of special court is just one of the factors upon which we should get this address. So much more than all what we're going to say here today, we must call on people on authority and then people who are also followers to eschew, you know, this unethical behavior of, you know, even lawyers, okay, manipulating the system and then
It's a
turning
good thing
things
that
around.
you both have agreed that, you know, you lawyers are also part of the problem. I wish I was one, but right now I'm absolved of all this. I want to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. Mona Isegine, a legal practitioner, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, it's been my pleasure.
As Mr. Evans Ofeli, also a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We're back in a moment after this break. Please stay with us.